Welcome to Center Heist Productions. Please, first, down below, hit in the right-hand corner, hit the subscribe and likes. I'd muchly appreciate your support. And to my supporters, I want to thank you. It means a lot to me. We're trying to get this channel up, and I'm a firm believer in when I watch other channels that run off of gossip, I have an issue with it, so we try to stick to legitimacy here. So, factual. Yes, sometimes we'll put out a tape to counter the gossip that is being spewed out. I'm not for that. So anyway, this tape, number one, it could be, I may have to make it into two parts because I have a 30-minute taping limit. So it's all about, first and foremost, Kapanen gets a contract signed today. It was announced earlier today. That's great news. I'd love to see him in Laval because he's got size to him, and he had such an exceptional tournament in that Worlds over just last couple of weeks ago. He had an exceptional, show some serious signs of somebody we can look forward to, because we can't look forward to the group was in Laval, the forward group that was in Laval this year. It's a bunch of Smurfs that will never be what Montreal needs. Sorry. We had one guy left there that had a chance, and that's Heineman. And whatever's happened to him, he's not jumped on his opportunities and hasn't been the same guy since his injuries. He's shown, before that, before those injuries came, that he had something. He's got to find it again. And I don't know what happened to him, but I believe in this training camp, this will be do or die for Heineman. So I don't even know. And then I thought this guy was a sure thing. I just did not know he was going to respond to his injuries before last training camp the way he did. So we'll see. But other than him, thank God Waugh jumped on his, and those were the only two that really were in that Laval system that had an opportunity to be part of this future. Thank God Waugh has done his part. But now we get into, like I said, the Sean Farrells. They're not going to make Montreal. We can't have a bunch of Smurfs. So when I hear guys jumping, oh, Montreal's got so much on the stock shelves, we got a lot of defense on our future shelves. Offensively, we got a bunch of Smurfs that were in Laval this year that are not going to be any good for Montreal. Now, can the Sean Farrells, by a fluke, they might get to play for another NHL team that has a big team that they can, surround him. So he's able to fit in. I don't even see it. Personally, I think he's got a lot in common. And I think a lot of them have a lot in common with Houdon. To me, they're Laval. They're AHL players. But even at that, you wonder if they are capable, because they had a lot of injuries down there in Laval. So, with that being said, we had no one from this year's roster that is going to be a part of Montreal's future. Guys coming in that I'm going to talk about, the Florian Jacki, Kapanen. I hope he gets sent to Laval. We'll see. And Luke Tuck, Owen Beck, and Machar are really, and I have my concerns about Machar and Beck a little bit, size-wise, although I guess Beck's 6'1", so maybe that's not such an issue, but Machar, I believe, is a little smaller. I have concerns, and I still think in my opinion, Beck's a third liner. That's just my opinion. I've had this debate, and in that debate, someone else thinks he's a second liner. Well, that would be great. But anyway, so that's encouraging. We have, somebody finally coming in with Jacki. Hopefully, had a great year down there in his junior league. Same thing, like we've seen great stuff from Kapanen and Luke Tuck. And those are the bigger bodies. So hoping and praying that they can absorb and add some muscle to, our middle down, lower six, bottom six players. I would think, third line and fourth line, and make that a better thing for Montreal than what we have right now. So that's positive. But to me, if someone comes off that list and makes Montreal, I think they all should at least spend 1 year in Laval, all those names that I just mentioned. But, I guess if a guy earns it, he earns it, a chance in Montreal. So, and I think out of that batch, really, to me, Beck would be the only one that might be able to steal a job in the lower six, just because he seems to be a little further advanced in his progression right now. But we'll see what happens. So really, that's why this draft is critical to get right, and the off season critical if we're going to make any moves. Because really, if we are trying, and I know Hughes wants this team to step forward. Well, if he's very, I love this new regime because the culture has been much better at this new, the group of youngsters here. But we got to get our talent level up in the front, the forwards. That's our problem, and it's a big problem because we've got one line right now, and even with some of the promising players, we don't know because there's injury prone issues. Okay, so we get into that. First, before I get into I'm going to bring up different scenarios. This could be a 2-part series. I might have to come up with a second tape. I'm going to try to get this done. Like I said, I have a 30-minute limit. Okay, I'm going to list off the names to you in free agency this summer. And Marner, we know. Chikrin, we know. We've heard his name. The goaltenders, that's not for us. Allmark and Markstrom are not anything we need to worry about. Then you got Zegras, Natchez, Lonnie, Patrick Lonnie, Mikheyev, Ehlers, Keliev, and Pajot, Frost, Kako, Managi Piani from Calgary, who I love that guy, and Smith inside. Now, you look at that list, and I'm talking only for our top 6. Okay? Understand what I'm saying here. Top 6 players. There's only one player on that list, and we already know, from Rumorville, it's looking like, we can't get him because they're being difficult with us in Carolina. And that's Natchez. He is the only one that every check of the column of what Montreal's doing for the future, he checks off everything. He's the perfect fit. If we can't get him, because we don't know, is this owner just being an a-hole? Hard to say. And maybe they're going to give up Natchez to somebody a lot easier. But if we have a way of getting Natchez, yes, I'm fully in on it. Because he's only player. I don't want to hear all these other names. When I hear people jumping on Lonnie, bring him in. What? You haven't had enough with the Kostitsyn, Drouin. I can go on. Those, and almost made the same mistake with Pierre-Luc Dubois, and you've seen that thank God we didn't, because look at the year he had. And then now you got Lonnie. There's no difference here. You notice how these players seem to have, and all the power. I hope that he heals with his personal issues, that he's on the player assistance. But it's funny how these underachievers, I hate to say it, seem to end up there. He is not the answer for Montreal. If you want another Drouin point, I call Pierre-Luc Dubois Drouin 0.20. Well, I'll call Patrick Lonnie Drouin 0.30. Do we need that? You want to destroy the culture of this team? Go get him. Sorry, I don't care what the projection of him, and he hit 40 one time, means nothing to me. I look at his track record of where he's been, and he's underachieved. And another guy, when the going gets tough, I want out. That's not what we need. That's poison you would spread in the culture and destroy these youngsters in Montreal. That's a no-go. No-go. And it's a no-brainer. That's why I get blown away when I hear reporters backing this move and then podcasts pumping it out. Are you a Montreal fan? I kind of got to ask. Because, what, you want to harm the team? You want to destroy what these guys are finally building a good culture? Now we need to add to it, but you don't want to wreck what we've got. And then, and then Zegras. I'm sorry. Let's go through the list one by one. Marner, we don't want. Just, we see, his issues. Chikrin, not on our list either, because that's a defenseman. Zegras, come on. Are you out of your pick of mind? Yes, he's very talented. We got too many small players. And going forward in the future, you want a winning team. It's enough that you're going to have Cole Caulfield and Alex Newhook. Other than that, we shouldn't be looking at bringing anybody else in small. Anybody. Because Harvey Pinard is not on NHL material. These guys pumped that bandwagon. I knew that. Year one when he had these numbers, I knew it was a total fluke. I didn't get on the bandwagon. But what I seen this year, that's what I expected. And he's not NHL material. That's a guy that should be sent to Laval. So, really, going in the future, when this team's where it's at, you got, as far as small, you don't want to go any farther than what we already got with Cole Caulfield. He can get by because of what he's done, and he's become quite a two-way player. Newhook got good effort, great third liner. You don't want to go any farther with small guys than that. So, we got to really be focused on what we do in this draft. We got to be focused on, okay, if we can't get Natchez for the top 6, you might have to just bite the bullet and say, okay, we don't go near anybody for top 6 this year. We wait till 2025 to deal with that when the money frees up and we have more. There'll be way more choices anyway. So we may have to just bite the bullet and suck on it and say, okay, we can't do nothing about the top 6 for this season, other than draft. And that's 3 years away for the players that come off that draft. So we might have to just accept, if we can't, I'm all aboard if we can get Natchez, but if we can't, there is not one soul on that line, on that list, that is for our top 6. Not a chance. So, not for Montreal, the way Montreal's built right now. And I've heard Kakko being promoted. I'm not so much for it. Maybe, for the time being, maybe you could trial him. If you could get him for a respect. You don't want to waste a bunch to get him. Maybe you trial him on, your lower 6. But if you can get him relatively cheap. But again, now that's what we got to be looking at, is our bottom 6 if we can't get Natchez for our top 6. Because he's the only guy we need for the top 6 on that list. Period. I stand by that and walk away from it if you have to and just deal with what we got for the time being. But the bottom 6, we do need to improve that as well. So why not? If you got one of these guys, like I've heard, like Kakko, like I just said, if you could get him cheap and use him as a bottom 6, okay, give it a try. But you have to get him cheap. You don't want to pay a fortune on somebody who's not panning out. And I think that's the only reason New York signed him, was just so I think they know that Montreal could do something with them. Paggio, I wouldn't mind too if he was reasonably cost-wise for our bottom 6. Now, I've heard Kelyev's name come up again. This is not a top 6 player again. There's none of these other guys should be going near other than Natchez for our top 6. Kelyev, okay, if you wanted to pull off, I've heard this mentioned, a trade of Ylonen for a Kelyev, I could live with that for your bottom 6. I could live with it. I do think that, again, our bottom 6 needs an upgrade. We really do, because we got a lot of fourth liners on that lower section of players in our team, and even part of our second line is in that group as well. So that buries that, right? So if you want, please upgrade the bottom 6, because I'll tell you right now, I was a fan of Pizzetta. He did not have a good year if you go and compare the years. I'm not on his bandwagon anymore. I think he's limited. Love him that he's willing to put his neck on the line, but he did not play with the intensity he had the year before. It's a guy you got to replace at some point here. At some point, Alonen, he's younger and shows glimpses. A lot of people have bailed on him already, and I understand why. But like if you wanted to trade for a Kelly, okay, go for it. Whatever. Either way, there's players they kind of both need to be replaced in one way or another somehow. And after that, you're looking at what do you do? You got to bring in some players because I personally think, truthfully, Galley should be a fourth liner. I think Josh Anderson, you're stuck with these two guys, and these are contracts we need to unload eventually if we can't keep them on the fourth line because especially Anderson, who's earned nothing. And I would actually have him, if I'm the coaching staff, you're starting and you may be on that fourth line forever unless you prove yourself. Because to me, he doesn't even deserve that. I'd be sending him to the AHL. That's me. I know they're not going to do it, probably due to something in the contract or something, or because he's a veteran. And I didn't like the way that was handled this year anyway. Seemed to be a little bit of favoritism for a guy who's sorry. That's that. There's another player of the Drouin types who underachiever, problematic in consistency, underachiever. We don't need more of that in Montreal. We got enough problems now we're trying to unload them. No one's going to take that contract. There's no one. No one. Sorry, I can't see it. We should have traded Josh when we had a chance 2 years ago. Well, we had the opportunity while the iron was hot. So we're stuck with him now. But anyway, now we get into the next quick topic is the news is supposedly out that, and we know that Hughes is going to be extremely busy this year because he has said he wants to move this team forward, same with Gordon. Well, if you're going to move this team in a direction to try to show its improvements, then you're going to have to figure you got a lot of work to do because you got a bunch of I think they're more so fourth liners on this team. When we look at the bill, it's only line one that is great. We got Kirby Dach, who unfortunately, great player, but he lost a year of development. And we don't know what else can come. And then thank God we got Waugh, who shows some signs, and we'll see from there. But other than those guys, for second liners, there's nobody else. It's really Dach and Waugh for second that are truth. And that's also to be proven too, because truthfully, on a good team, Waugh would be going on the third line at this point in his development. But on Montreal, I'd throw him on the second line because he's better than the bulk of our team, fourth liners. And it's a matter of who you put on the left wing. What happens there, right? It's kind of looking like it's going to be Newhook, but that's again you're making Newhook play, and it's here he doesn't belong in. He should actually be on the third line where he's going to be good. But place the guys where they belong. They're probably going to unload Dvorak. So what's going to be the case? And this is where you could see the potential of Beck getting in there, and maybe he's between him and Jake Evans, as the two lower centers. Maybe that's quite possible. Which one ends up on the third line? Because I honestly think Beck will be that checking line specialist. So that wouldn't be a bad thing to get him started. We'll see what happens, though. They got to earn the spot first. But with that being said, if we can unload, the rumor is that Hughes is trying to unload Carey Price's contract. We all love Carey Price and think he's still going to be a Montreal Canadian, no matter, even if they trade him off, because he's not playing anymore. He's not going to play again. But if you can unload that, we know it helps on LTIR, but it also, if you could get rid of it, you get more leverage in what you can sign because you get the full amount. So, all the power to him because we got three guys contract-wise that are killing us, and it's Carey Price, it's Gallagher, and Anderson. And these contracts, you got to get rid of one of them at least. And if you can pull off that, that would really free up stuff so that we could do more with the off season. So that's the potential on that. Speaking on that there. So with that being said, that's really what, if he can pull it off, I say all the power to go for it. You're probably going to have to give up a couple draft picks or something to make that deal happen. We'll see what happens. But with that being said, until we unload those, we're not going to get our full. And we should try to do something before next 2025 off season, because we know the free agents that are coming up then, and that's when we can really do some damage. So we really got to work hard on getting the money that's tied up freed up, so that we can actually do what we need to do. So with that being said, that covers that, right? Okay, now we go into the next ones, and I don't know if we're gonna have time for it all. We're going to talk about, so we've talked about the free agency, so that's over with. Okay, so yeah, if they want to work on the bottom six, they should, because like I said, I think Pizzetta time is up. He's a AHLer to me. Yalonen's mixed. What the hell do you give him another year, because he does have talent and he's young? But if somebody wants him, like LA, and Mark Bergevin has ties to drafted him, and if he's big on him, maybe you do a trade with LA and give Kaliev a chance to be a part of the bottom six, something of that nature. But other than that, in my books, those two guys are spots we need to replace. Dvorak, we know he's not going to be a part of the future, but I still think he's a great center. We'll see if they unload him in the off season, or we know by trade deadline they will. So we go from there. Same thing with our defense. We'll see what happens. But I do want to make this known. No matter if we, by some fluke, if there's, we are close to, and which we don't really know the true story, if we were close at all and have a chance for Natchez, and I'm sorry, we got to think of this. If it is Matheson they want, and none of us want him gone, but if it is, you do it, because he's not going to be a part of this after 2 years. He's going to be getting too old. He's not going to be part of when we start winning. And you want to jump on it, because it's the best he's ever got. He's not going to repeat these numbers. It's not going to happen. But you want to jump on the hot iron while he's worth something. So if we're close, if it takes Matheson and a couple draft picks, go for it to get Natchez. It'd be well worth it, because Natchez he's at the age where he can be a part of the future. Now I've heard names like Jarvis and Travainen's name for Carolina, because they got so many financial problems. You can, could they? Well, I don't even want to go to that and discuss it at this point. Good players, but I don't even want to go there at this point. That's Carolina's issues. Then same thing, you got Columbus. We have Wardell and Carolina owner are both holding grudges against one. Then stop make it hard on them, because they're going to be wanting us in the future. If they're not willing to be mature and willing to do proper business, we can just exclude them out of any future dealings, because they will come back into Montreal in the future. That's how good of a defense we're building is. So that's my answer to that. So we'll see what happens, though, right? Everything's rumorville, and we all got to remember, reporters are writing these stories, and they have their own opinion. It doesn't make them right. Scouts or chief scouts that own some of these scouting companies, and they're just, I can agree with them sometimes. I don't agree with everything. They don't have the gospel. They're like you and me. It's an opinion. Doesn't make them the end all. So really, I know there's agendas, like somebody likes this one and likes that one. Well, doesn't mean it's the answer. Like I watched, that's why I say the draft is important. We've got to get this right. And I've heard the nonsense that everybody because they're pumping out, trying to find an excuse not to draft Lidstrom because of his back. Don't give me the garbage. When I was working out, and I've got a bad back. And now I'm noticing it again because I can't work out anymore because of my health issues. But when I was able to work out and I was involved in sports, I was able to contain that so I wouldn't have as much issues. And it did work. It's a matter. Don't tell me that. I know Lidstrom is at a level where he works out. He can learn a couple of these exercises. And I'd say, give me a call because I could tell you what I did. But anyway, don't tell me I'm the only one that knows what you back strengthening things. I'm sure there's plenty of trainers that could tell them. So to me, it's overblown. Okay, maybe he does have, with a herniated disc. Been there. I know what that's like. I never had a problem at the level I was at, and I was playing pretty physical stuff and different demanding on my body. Yes, yes, like some people will say, it's a back. Yes, it is a back, and yes, you'll have moments. But if you do those strengthening things, it'll wear out, but you'll be able to deal with it much better. It won't put you out of commission. I found once I had to stop doing those exercises, that's when you ran into trouble. For me, that was due to health, and that much later on. But don't tell me that you blow him. He is the perfect choice for Montreal in the draft, and it's important we get this right. My second choice, yes, I can live with going to Demidov as my second choice. I still have question marks. However, I kind of think about it and go, well, I know the thing that bothers me is he's playing MHL in Russia, and we know it's because the KHL is mad at him for not signing a contract with them, because he wants to come over. Okay, if that's the case, and if that is the case, they're probably going to leave him there this year. That's not good because his development's going to be at a standstill. But I guess the big question is, and you would need this is where you would need scouts to verify whether the MHL is at our CHL levels, our junior league levels, because it's not such a bad thing if it is. And that's the real question. I mean, we know he's got the maneuvers. No one's questioning his talented maneuvers, but it's what level is this? Is he playing within? I think he's still got the talent to do things. So, and I think sometimes in Russia, there's smoke screens thrown off like they did with Michkov, but I do think Michkov was problematic, cultural wise. So this kid does seem to be better personality, and he does have talents. There's no doubt about it. Whether they're at the levels, there's question marks. But then again, if we look at it, the whole draft, it's a roll of dice. So you're taking a chance no matter how you look at it. Now, I know people have got their opinions because of this, that, and the other thing. What happens if Lidstrom's taken? Well, you take Demidov. Now, what happens if Demidov's taken? You take Lidstrom. If they're both taken, what do you do there? To me, my third guy is Seneke, but I have a problem with Seneke is his physicality. That's what gives me a problem there. Then I know after that it would be Iginla, fourth choice. But I'm concerned because if Montreal's, they did have a meeting with Dickinson, and I don't want to go near a defenseman again. I really don't. To me, the only excusable guy I would draft on defense is Silyev, only because is he the next Chara, monstrosity-wise, physicality-wise. And then there was another defenseman much later in the draft, but you wouldn't use your fifth for him. You would use your 26th for him. Is that guy the answer to that question as well? No, I don't care what's done with the 26 because I think we're going to trade that off anyway. I hate to say it. I'd like to see us trade up. Wouldn't it be nice to get a Lidstrom and a Seneke? That would be great. But anyway, Iginla would be my fourth choice, and after that, if you're not going to get it, I'd trade it away. Again, I've been standing by saying, if those guys aren't available, then why bother? You're not going to get what you're after. Trade it off for a draft to get yourself a position in next year's draft. If you trade that off, I'm sure you could somehow tie in Chicago or San Jose to go for that pick. So that's that. Thank you for joining me. You've seen it here at Center Ice first, and we'll talk more as the time goes. And we're just trying to battle against the false gossip that's being spewed out and give us a better projection. A lot of these guys have been injured in the draft, so we can't use those as an excuse, and they've been verified whether they can play or not. Thank you for joining me. Catch you in the next one. God bless. And happy Father's Day.